Hi, just wanted to do a quick review of our Regency I2400 medium wood burning fireplace insert. So this is their classic series insert. This has the same firebox as the freestanding stove, the F2400. This is the pre-EPA 2020 standards version. This is an EPA certified unit, but it doesn't meet the 2020 standards. The current model that is non-catalytic like this unit is the I2450, basically the same firebox with some tweaks. They also have the I2500, which is a hybrid that includes a catalytic combustor in addition to the secondary air system. This firebox is about 2¼ cubic feet, and it can take an 18-inch log both front to back or side to side. Personally, I like loading it front to back. It lets you put a bunch of pieces in there and you don't have to reach in across the hot coals to do it. One of the great features of this unit is the fact that it extends into the room, and in fact it comes into the room and has about a 6-inch shelf or top here that lets us have this steamer sitting atop the stove. We've also heated up pots of chili on there before. Just note that that top is not the actual stove top. If you can see underneath here, there are two opening vents. One's there and then one's there on the other side. That's the convection chamber. And so the temperature on that top is not the temperature of the actual stove top. Measuring actual stove temperatures with this unit is quite difficult, and of course you can't get to pipe temperatures at all. The best you can really do with a magnetic thermometer is to stick it in the corner above the door, as you see here. And so we do use that to monitor temperatures. There's a convection chamber on the side, just beyond the hinges there, which you can see with the screen. And so there's kind of a small spot there that's kind of in the upper corner of what is internal to where the firebox is located, as opposed to external steel in part of a convection chamber. In general, I like to have this unit between 300 and 600 degrees when we're heating, depending on the intensity of the fire. With a full load at night, when it gets up to temp, it'll cruise at 600 to 650 right there for a couple hours and basically slowly come down as that secondary combustion is really rolling. We have the blower option on this. It's not standard, it's an option, but it is a must-have option. The blower here has 2 speed settings, low and high. It's currently on low. We leave it on low essentially all the time. It does have a thermostat control, in that there's a sensor in there that's measuring the temperature of the stove, and if the stove cools off, the blower will shut off, and then as the stove warms up, as you get a new fire going, the blower will come back on. You can switch it. There are 2 switches on the end here. You can switch it to a manual mode, which would keep the fan on all the time. We don't use that, and the blower really doesn't turn off. The stove doesn't get cool enough for that. While we're looking over on this side, that little rod there is the air control. This stove has a single lever air control. The marks on it don't come on there. I painted those on there based on burn settings that work well with this particular setup. So pulling it all the way out, that opens the draft all the way, letting maximum air into the firebox. And then if you push it all the way in, you're shutting all of the air down. We never burn it with it pushed all the way in. The overnight setting is that little mark right there, which is about a finger width out. And then during the day, generally, we'll put it at either of these other 2 marks, just kind of midway and 1/3 of the way on the full travel for the air control. And it generally works quite well, keeps the stove at nice temperatures with a nice fire with between 2 and maybe 4 pieces of wood in there. And you get good secondary combustion when the temperature gets up and kind of backs down. The glass itself stays very clean. The air wash system on this stove is quite good. In fact, let me go ahead and open the door here so you can just see those little holes there. Those are the air wash. That's where the air comes in. It runs right over the glass. to help keep it clean. You can see there's just a little bit of haze on the glass. This was last cleaned about 3 days ago, and that's all the haze that builds up. That's pretty typical. There'll be a little of ash that'll stick to the glass. I clean it maybe once a month, or if we're having company over, I'll clean it when the stove is cool, just with a wet paper towel. Just kind of wipe it right off and it comes back clear. So really, really nice. You can see the firebox there. 18-inch logs will go right in there, front to back or side to side. And if I get a little closer here, you can see in the top, those tubes across the top allow air into the firebox for secondary combustion. In addition to the air wash over the door, there's also an inlet right down here in the center that lets primary air into the firebox. In terms of the door itself, very impressed with this door compared to the door on some other units. I've dealt with 2 other units by different manufacturers. This cam lock, very, very robust compared to other doors that I've seen. It's fully adjustable. There's a series of washers in there behind that cam, so you can undo the 2 nuts there and take out a washer if you need to compress that gasket a little bit more. This unit is 2 years old. This is the original gasket, and I have not removed any washers from it yet. It's still fully airtight, so that's a great feature. The blower is a great feature. It's got high, low. Again, I said we leave it on low all the time. And that top is a great feature. And the other thing that's great about this is just how much heat it throws. Now, what's not so good? Probably my least favorite thing about this unit is the base of the door. If you can see, this door is cast iron. The rest of the unit is steel. In the bottom of the door there is a channel or a groove above the gasket. And what happens over time, naturally, as the fire burns, ash and little coals will kind of accumulate in there. You can kind of see some over there. And what happens is occasionally that'll drop out and make a mess, or that ash will get pressed into the gasket and kind of wear at the gasket over time. And so that's one thing I don't really like about the stove. When it's kind of burned down and out, I'll use the vacuum and basically vacuum that out. It's relatively clean now because I cleaned it somewhat recently. The other thing that, for an insert, not necessarily a huge fan of, is the fact that the coals will build up, especially toward the back of the unit. And they build up toward the back because the primary air is all coming in the front, the secondary air is coming in the top. And so it can take a long time to burn those coals down, and we can build up a lot of coals pretty quickly if we're doing lower burns. So higher burns help with that, but there's still a lot of coaling toward the back of the unit. Now, that being said, we love that we can load it front to back. That's a safer way to load it. We never have logs coming against the glass or anything like that. Plus, we can see where we're putting the pieces to really get a maximum fill on the firebox for an overnight burn. Speaking of overnight burns, we'll have plenty of coals in this unit after anywhere between 10 and 12 hours, depending on how much ash is in the firebox and what kind of wood we're burning. Right now, overnight, I'm burning generally ash and oak. The ash is 1 year dry, the oak is 2 years dry. So nicely seasoned, and I will have plenty of coals, not quite as much as is in there now, but certainly plenty of coals after 11-ish hours. Generally, I load it around 7:30 in the evening, let everything get rip-roaring, secondary combustion started, back it down, and then come down 6:30 in the morning, stir it up, and load it again. Now, it's not producing heat, real meaningful heat, for more than about 8 hours, but it's a quick reload, and it takes off again. In terms of ash buildup, I shovel the ash out every 3 days or so, generally first thing in the morning. As you can see, it's burned down in the front, and the coals are toward the back, and that's how it is when you get up in the morning. I'll take 3 or 4 shovelfuls of ash right out of the front, where it's basically burned down and burned out, every few days. And so that enables us to keep this going 24/7, and basically this runs 24/7 from November through March. So this unit here, 2 years old, has had 10 cord of wood burned through it, still in great shape. All the fire bricks are intact. Gaskets, haven't had to do anything to it. And the heat that this throws off is really impressive. This is a 2,000 square foot house. This is a central chimney. This unit is in the living room, right next to the staircase, so heat goes right upstairs. But this will fully heat the house, basically, except for December, January, February. That's when we bring in the oil burner, helps a little bit. But even with the oil burner helping, the oil burner is only using about 18 gallons of oil a month when we're burning this unit. So really does a number on cutting down on the heating bill. We're in general very pleased with the unit. Again, I just pointed out that channel in the bottom of the door and the fact that, you know, the coals tend to build up in the back, which of course is way back in the fireplace, so you're not really getting a lot of heat out of the unit as it's burned down. So anyone who's looking at one of these, the blower is a must-have. Now, the downside is Regency kind of options out everything. There are different doors you can get. There's, you know, the blower is an option. All these things are kind of options. And so you are going to kind of pay for all of them individually. But the blower is a must-have. It just circulates the heat so much better on a unit like this, which is primarily in the firebox. So again, I really recommend this unit. We like it tremendously compared to the unit that was in here before. Very simple, very straightforward to operate with that single air control. You know, obviously, whatever your setup is, you're going to have to learn how it behaves. This has a 6-inch stainless steel liner that's 19 feet tall, and it drafts very well. Sometimes, actually, we feel that it's drafting almost a bit too strong. With these secondary combustion, you're talking about temperatures above 1200 degrees Fahrenheit in the firebox, so there is a little bit of a tendency for this to kind of take off a little bit like a freight train and get really rolling, and get a little too hot. So you do have to pay attention to that. Watch out for that overfiring. We had one incident early on as we were learning the unit where inside of that air channel that I was showing you up there, you could see a very faint red glow, which is overfiring the unit. So, you know, watch out for that. But otherwise, now that I've, you know, really learned how it behaves, got those marks on the air control rod, we have had no issues and have been very pleased with this unit. In terms of wood consumption, I'll just show you this. Built this box here to go inside, and basically we burn this box per day. This box is 4.5 cubic feet. It's 18 inches, you know, from this side to the other side, and that helps in measuring the pieces of wood as well. So I know that any piece of wood that drops right into the box will fit right into the stove without having to go on an angle or anything like that. It'll just go straight in there. And so that's really convenient. I basically fill this up at night right after I load the stove for the night, and then it's all set for the next day. So I can put a big load in the morning before I leave, and then my spouse will, you know, midday or so put a few more pieces in, and then when I get home, a few more pieces. So basically we burn through, during the peak heating season, about 4.5 cubic feet of wood per day. That slows down in March, and of course it's slower in October, November, where sometimes we're letting the unit out. So that's the Regency I2400. Very similar to the current 2450, which will behave in a very similar manner. The I2500 that's out now does have a catalyst, so it gets a little higher efficiency and a little bit longer burn time supposedly. Any of these units would be a great heater, so I do recommend them. I've showed the negatives. They're few and far between. So that sums it up for this unit. Hopefully this is helpful for you.